What is up, Waffle Gang? I do hope you are well. My name is Mark, and today we're checking out some r/am I the butthole? Of course we are. If you are new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too. And I just got a few thank yous to say to some new members who've joined us, and I'm very, very appreciative of each and every one of you. First, we had Mr. Smiley join us. Then we had Els Boa join us. We also had an updated one from Rice. Thank you so much for that. And I've got a couple I may have missed here because, you know, I've been a bit rubbish with the updates the last couple of days. We had Little Flame, Misha Mayhem, MN, Scorpio is Queen 2. Thank you so much for your love, support and time, and for taking 20 minutes out of your day to be here. I will never, ever get over that. So thank you so much for what you do. Let's crack on with today's stories. Much love, guys. Now, our first story comes from Bugs Rabbit 1. Am I the arsehole for selling the car I was going to give my daughter to help pay for my daughter-in-law's fertility treatment? My eldest son is 37 and married to my daughter-in-law, who is also 37. 3 months ago, they both came over and told my wife and I that they had done 2 rounds of IVF, but unfortunately, neither was successful, and they needed some money so they could secure another round of IVF with an egg donor this time. Obviously, my wife and I were glad to offer to help and fortunately had some money we could give. However, given the short notice, the total was still short, which brought me to the decision to sell my old Boxster since I didn't use it anymore and have another car. Managed to sell it to an old friend and had more than enough for daughter-in-law's fertility treatment. For those interested, it was thankfully a success. They're both excited and the pregnancy has been going well. The problem is that my youngest daughter, who is 19, found out that I sold the Porsche. I refuse to call it Porsche, in order to help, and was extremely upset with me. Didn't understand why until she told me that I'd apparently promised her when she was 14 that the Porsche would be hers after she got her degree. She's never mentioned this before and I don't recall it happening, but I probably did, so I apologised and promised just to buy her another car or even another Boxster. However, she's still not happy with me and told me to just forget it. Even if I remembered, the time sensitivity of my son's and daughter-in-law situation would have taken preference because my daughter still has a few years until then and I'd be able to buy another car for her. Am I the arsehole? Edit, and after talking to her beforehand, refers to the last part on if I did remember. I would have spoken to her before. Now, I'll be straight up with this one that this post was a unanimous "you're the arsehole," but I don't quite agree. So we're going to cover a few of the comments first, and then I'm going to come back with my opinion and we'll go against it, and then you can let me know what you guys think. So Amid the Primal Thing says, "You're the arsehole. It seems like your younger daughter had an attachment to both the promise you made her and the vehicle itself. To find out that the promise you made to her wasn't even worth you remembering must have been an emotional blow on top of losing a car that had some sort of inherent value to her. I also find it worrisome that you say, she's never mentioned this before and I don't recall it happening, but I probably did. This indicates to me that you have a pattern of doing this. You have a pattern of promising things to her, whether they are physical items or physical presents, and then forget to follow through on things, often that you yourself say that you probably in fact did it this time too. Your younger daughter is not somehow less than your older son and daughter-in-law, which is what your actions are telling her right now. And which is what you are literally saying when you say that your daughter-in-law's situation takes preference. I get the feeling that because of the age difference between yourself, your kids, and your kids with one another, there have been some historic imbalances like this that have led to your daughter feeling written off, hence her telling you to forget it. She's close to giving up on you, I think. Is that something you're really willing to risk? If I were you, I'd buy the car back and give it to her before you lose her forever due to your blatant disregard and disproportionate favoritism." And Quixotic says, "You're the arsehole. It's very commendable that you helped your son and daughter-in-law, but you're completely dismissing your daughter's feelings. You made a promise and forgot about it. While she's sentimentally attached to the idea, you broke your promise and you can't fix it just by getting another one. A different Porsche would not be the same as the one her dad had as she was growing up. It's not just a car to her, it's a piece of you that you promised her that she can now never have. You should have at least sat down and talked to her about it before selling it." Now, Ali Craftica says, "I'm going to say you're the arsehole, and not because you want to help your son and daughter-in-law, that's 100% valid. But you made a pretty big promise, especially to a kid, that you then forgot. Then sold the thing that she clearly was working towards. She hadn't forgotten. She probably wanted that car because it was will of sentimental value. It was the car of someone she loves. She probably would have owned it for many, many years. This is why you shouldn't make off-the-cuff promises, especially to children. Then Urbane1 says, you're the arsehole. You sold something you promised your daughter without giving any warning, to pay for a medical procedure for your son's wife. That's frankly unnecessary. If they want kids, it should be nice to have, but it's not a necessity by any stretch of the imagination, especially considering that adoption was an option. Your daughter must have been feeling awful right now. You definitely need to do something to reassure her that she matters to you. And YMMV Butt says, you're the arsehole. The original story doesn't make it clear, but your comments make it clear that you're pretty out of touch with your daughter's view of you, and you don't really mind or even notice that. You seem to accept that your daughter's account of the car being promised, and thus that you said one thing and did another, with no interest in how that affects your daughter or her view of you. Her reaction to that promise of a different Boxster, just forget about it, is the reaction of someone who has already heard a lot of promises that didn't get fulfilled. She doesn't believe you will keep your promise. Your statement that preference has never been shown to either child strains belief, and I would like to hear daughter's view on that. It's sad that you think you can fix what's wrong between you and your daughter by promising her a future car. Now, I might get shot down for this one because, you know, the post is clearly a you're the arsehole post, but has no one ever forgotten a promise before? And I know people go, oh, I've never forgotten a promise, but I promised 5 years ago to a young daughter who said, oh, can I have your car? Then it might have been just an offhand, yes, of course you can have my car, blah, blah, blah. I promise you that. I remember when I was younger, I was obsessed with Dodge Vipers, and I think I was promised a Dodge Viper at some point. I never got one though, maybe one day, but hey, I never got one. But do I hold it against anyone? No. And would I hold it against anyone who was going through IVF treatment, you know, at 37 years old? There is time restraints to this. No, I would never ever hold it against anyone like that. And I'm not blaming the daughter for the way she's feeling. I'm not putting down her feelings at all. But at the same time, if I was in that position, I know how I would feel about it. And there was just some comments in there like talking about their relationship, and it's going to be a broken relationship now because of this. Really? I can't see it. I just can't see myself ever doing this, you know, to a family member who made a promise like this to me. Mistakes happen. Sometimes people make off-the-cuff promises. Maybe they shouldn't have. Sure, it's a mistake. But that's what it is. It's a mistake. Would I completely tear a relationship, you know, how many years they've been together because of this? No, unless it's happened more frequently, of course. Again, this can be fixed with conversation. The majority of the time it can be fixed with conversation, and he did offer some compromises of a different car that he could get another Boxster, and I know it may have sentimental value, but you know, the option is there. And again, I'm not playing down daughter's feelings because that probably did have some sort of sentimental value towards her, but 37 years old, IVF, I can't hold it against dad for this in some ways. I will say he's the arsehole for not talking to daughter first, because that's obviously the biggest sticking point for me, but anything else from that, I just can't. And then I was scrolling through the comments looking if there's anyone else that feels the same, because I thought, oh no, I'm going to get a lot of hate for this otherwise, and I still might, and don't at me about it guys, because this is just the way I'm feeling on this one. But Young Happen says, Jesus Christ, this is what I hate about this subreddit. Everyone assumes they know everything, and even when someone is decent enough to ask info, the others are too busy downvoting OP. Things to consider, since we're assuming things anyway. OP is at least 60, considering son's age. We all forget things, much more so when they're years ago. OP could have remembered the hypothetical promise, that by the way we have no way of proving whether real or not. If there were more time, and true enough, a baby at around 37, you're all risking a lot of shit that could go wrong with a kid. Sure, call it grandbaby fever or whatever, but in their minds the situation was probably dire. OP has the decency to believe his daughter without proof that he did in fact make a promise that happened to forget, and I think that warrants something. I'm not saying OP isn't the arsehole, as I will put soon enough, but everyone stop being so close-minded. Sometimes some glaring arseholes do deserve it in this sub though. So OP, you're the arsehole, because you assumed you could just replace your promise, because that's the first thing you offered, and that you tried to absolve yourself of the blame by reasoning out things like she's far off from graduating anyway. I don't relate at all. Hell, I'd be happy if I got $1 from my dad. Lol. I don't like spoiled people for sure, but assuming your financial status, I guess it's just different worlds. OP, talk to your daughter, ask her what it means to her, get to an understanding, and work on getting back from your friend. Since you seem to have implied you have other sources to get money from, if at all possible, try to make good on your promise. Hopefully it was an honest mistake. I lose my phone 5 times a day. It won't hurt for me to assume you innocently forgot something decades ago. Good luck. Now, I know this may be a controversial one on this one, I know it from, I just got the feeling, right? So, and just to throw this one out there, I'm always happy, you know, to be wrong on a post. That's what it's all about. But please come at me with constructive stuff. I've had some ones in the past just, you know, straight out abusive in the comments, and I'm not for that. I love your opinions. I love you educating me on matters, but, you know, keep it nice, please. And let's move on to the next one. And our next story comes from Imaginary Insurance 50. Am I the arsehole for rehoming the pets my mum got me for my birthday? I am 17 and female, and my birthday was 2 weeks ago, and my mum got me 3 chinchillas. I'd been saving up money through my job to buy my own supply in chinchillas. I was surprised when my mum handed me the animals on my birthday. I was excited as they are a dream pet of mine. She gave them me in a really small travel cage sort of thing. Think one of those really shitty hamster cages little kids keep their hamsters in. With the money I got for my birthday, including the money I had saved up, I had enough to get a multi-level cage and all the supplies and toys I would need and still have around $100 or so left over. I didn't want to keep the chinchillas in a small cage they came with for long, so after checking over my budget one time and clearing a space in my room, I told my mum I was heading to the pet store to grab a bigger cage and some supplies. My mum stopped me dead in my tracks and said I wasn't allowed to go. This started an argument between us. My mum was going on about how she thought chinchillas only live a few months and she didn't want a huge stinking cage in her house, and how I was wasting my money on something that's probably not going to live that long. Since chinchillas are like a dream pet for me, I've done a lot of research about chinchilla care, and I kept saying they live around 10 years and need lots of room to play. But she kept saying, well, in the pet store, they said they'd be fine in that cage I got you. Or in the wild, they don't live that long, I'm sure they'll get eaten anyway. It got really frustrating for me since I want to be a responsible owner and care for the animals properly, but my mum kept insisting I was being over dramatic. Since I wasn't allowed to get the stuff I need for the chinchillas, I told my mum I was going to rehome them. She went off and called me dramatic, selfish, ungrateful and rude. My dad came home later that day and told me I should apologise to my mum and keep my pets, that I was being unreasonable and acting like an arsehole towards my mum. I refused to apologise to my mum and got in contact with a friend of mine who I know takes great care of her chinchillas, hadn't had an extra cage, and I offered her the animals and she took them and paid me. I went home and tried to give the money to my mum to pay her back, and she got mad and called me an arse and said I was ungrateful and acting like a terrible daughter. Am I the arse for hurting my mum's feelings? Nope, all I see is a responsible person, you know, taking the animals' welfare as the top priority in this situation, and that's all you needed to do. You're 100% not the arse in this, and your mum's attitude is quite frankly scary. But 9 says, not the arsehole, whoa, your mum scares me a bit. Yeah, me too. And Reed Owl says, not the arsehole, the welfare of the animals was top priority here. It seems like your mum forgot that these were living creatures and not toys. Even if they did live a few months, they would have deserved to live those months in a comfortable environment. The fact that she didn't even bother to research them enough to learn how long they live and what kind of habitat they need before buying them for you makes her even more the arsehole. Your dad is also the arsehole for siding with her on this. Also, a small cage would smell just as bad as a large one, if not worse due to the animals being crammed together. Edit, wow, did not expect to get this bigger response. Thank you so much for the awards, but if you're thinking about adding to them, please consider donating to your local animal rescue instead. And Kith says, not the arsehole, your mother is refusing to allow you to enrich their lives and provide proper housing for them. Your father is clearly not hearing the whole story, and since it's your money, she can't really stop you. But since he's trying to prevent you and everything else, do what you need to do to give them a good home. And one more from RV Fulltime saying, not the arsehole, your mother has no feelings other than pure selfishness. Your father is no better. Someone who abuses animals and tries to force you to go along with it is cold-hearted monster, and then she tried to guilt trip you for refusing to participate. Don't feel guilty about poor little Fifis being hurt. Move out as soon as you are old enough, Fifis. And now I turn this one to you guys. What do you guys think of this story? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And our next story is from Khalees Bees. Am I the arsehole for kicking my coworker out of my wife's baby shower? I, 29 male, work in a pretty tight workspace. We have about 9 of us in my department and it's pretty even split between men and women. There's one coworker, Eva, 20 female, who started working here a few months back. She's really good at her job and seems to get along with everyone. We get along as well as we work on projects together and are usually in the group of people that are the last to leave most days. I learned some weeks ago that she was calling herself my work wife. I knew what the term meant, the sentiment wasn't shared, and I've expressed as much. I don't think I've been rude about it, I just let her know that I'd prefer for her to keep things a bit more professional. There's no real harm in the term, but for someone who doesn't understand the joke, it just looks and sounds wrong. I'm also a happily married man, and my co-workers including Eva know this. I thought I had done a pretty good job nipping things in the bud after our conversation. I no longer heard the jokes from her, so I didn't think it would be an issue to invite her to my wife's baby shower. My co-workers are all vaccinated, our job helped us get them, and my wife works from home, so there wasn't much concern for the sickness that shall not be named. Eva comes in and immediately starts back up with the jokes. "You're OP's home wife, nice to meet you. It's so nice to see who takes care of my hubby when I send him home." My wife is a very sweet and patient woman, so she just laughed it off, albeit uncomfortably, and moved on. However, the jokes got worse and wouldn't let up. At one point, Eva was telling people she'd be our baby's second mum. My wife's friends and family were annoyed and my wife looked very uncomfortable. I'd pretty much had it by then and took her aside and told her that the jokes weren't funny and that she could either apologise to my wife right now for being so inconsiderate and gross, or she could just leave. She chose to leave. Word got around to our co-workers what had happened, and while they agreed that she was acting inappropriately, that I should have let her down a little easier, as it was obvious she liked you, OP. Am I really the arsehole for kicking her out? To me, this one, it just sort of felt like she was almost doing that out of spite in the end, because you closed it down at work, so that should have been it. Why would she come to your place and then bring it up? It almost felt like, I'm going to do this out of spite, because she went over the top with it as well and went way too far with it. I don't know, I may be wrong there, but either way, you need to talk to your HR department if this carries on, because she's clearly not listening to you at all. But let's check out some of the comments to see what they say. And Obedicta says, "Not the arsehole, send HR an email about this behaviour to get it on record." And Sirius Black's Tattoo says, "Not the arsehole, I don't think work wife is cute, especially in that situation. Your wife was probably mortified, but I'm sure it helped that you handled the situation and stood up for her. She must be very patient and sweet, because I'm not sure I would have been able to keep my mouth shut. You have addressed this with Eva before. I'd borderline say it's harassment at this point. It's not cute, it's not funny, and Eva needs to be a mature adult and act like a professional. Completely inappropriate, but especially at you and your actual wife's baby shower." And Really Fish says, "Not the arsehole, you already asked her to stop once before. Forcing a work wife thing outside of work is creepy and super unprofessional. She chose to leave rather than stop like you asked. How dare she say such things in front of your wife at her baby shower? Gross." And Carolina Mama 2015 says, "Not the arsehole, it's time to take this to HR and get it on paper before she starts making accusations against you." And now I turn this one to you guys. What do you think of this situation, and what would you do in it? Would you take it to HR, or would you deal with it in a different way? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And our next story is from a throwaway account. "Am I the arsehole for taking my girlfriend's sister's son to the police station? I, male 28, have been with my girlfriend for over 10 months. She recently moved in with me in my apartment. Her sister would ask her to watch her 1-year-old son while she takes care of her husband, who's been in the hospital for 2 weeks. I only know where my girlfriend's parents live, never visited her sister's house. Last week, my girlfriend was working out of town for 4 days. In the early morning, her sister came over with her son, asking if my girlfriend came back to watch her son temporarily. I told her my girlfriend was still out of town. She insisted I watch the baby for a few hours. I told her I can't and I had work to go to. I work at the local hospital. She walked out completely ignoring me, saying it won't take long. I waited for an hour. I was late for work. I called my girlfriend's sister, telling her to come pick up her son, because I had work. I asked for their address because I wanted to take him back to their house, but she refused. I wanted to take him to my girlfriend's parents' house. She yelled at me, saying she'd deal with me if I take her son there. I felt helpless and didn't know what to do. I just took her son off to the local police station after she turned her phone off. I provided them with the information to be able to reach my girlfriend's sister. Later I found out that my girlfriend's sister was brought to the police station. She lied, saying I agreed to watch her son, and talked about how well she knew me and how this whole thing was arranged. Then cried about her husband being in the hospital and how overwhelmed she felt. I denied what she claimed. I said I didn't agree on watching her son and explained I wasn't capable of handling this responsibility. For some reason, other family members were involved and it got worse. I had a family yelling at me for what I did, calling me all sorts of bad names. I was eventually allowed to go, but my work shift was ruined because of this. My girlfriend found out from her family that I caused her sister an issue with the police on top of what she's already been dealing with because I refused to lend a hand. I explained to her what her family did, and she apologised and assured me this was no one's fault but her sister, since she wanted me to watch her son while she goes to renew her membership at the gym. I was stunned to hear that. However, her parents and relatives are mad at me, telling me I messed up and now they see me for the selfish jerk I am. And we'll start straight away on this one with Maleficent ad 3958 saying, "You're the arsehole, you didn't agree to this and the sister should not have dumped the kid on you. However, I'd like to know, so if I'm reading this correctly, the hospital thing was a lie and your girlfriend's sister just wanted to go to the gym. Man, that makes her crap worse. I honestly think your girlfriend needs to push back harder on the family or you'll be dealing with this kind of drama constantly." And out of work Flygirl says, "Not the arsehole. What your girlfriend's sister did was abandonment, leaving a child in the care of someone who cannot or will not take care of the child. If all she was doing was renewing her gym membership, why couldn't she have taken her kid with her? It's literally just entering some numbers on a tablet and swiping a card. No different from the grocery store. You and your girlfriend need to have a heart-to-heart. No more watching that kid in your home. Sister is the type that will say you did something to baby and then you're in a whole heap that you didn't want to be in." And IC says, "Not the arsehole at all. Sister left her baby with you over your objections, assuming you would be like what I assume her parents do and bend to a whim. You tried contacting everyone and sister shut off her phone. Taking the kid to the police station was the right thing to do. It provides a safe spot for the kid and some actual consequences for sister for a change." And quotes her sister an issue with the police on top of what she's already been dealing with. And it says, well, if it isn't consequences for my own actions, fancy meeting you here. Seriously, if she hadn't abandoned her child with basically a stranger, she wouldn't be in trouble for child abandonment. Ignore the family enablers and be glad your girlfriend sees through this." And one more from the Riker maneuver saying, "Not the arsehole, look. You were put in a tough spot and your girlfriend's sister is in a tough spot, but she can't dump her baby with someone she doesn't know, then turn her phone off and ignore the problem. And the reason she didn't want you taking the baby to her parents' house was because she was probably somewhere she wasn't supposed to be. There's no reason she couldn't take her baby with her to renew a membership at the gym. And why was taking the baby to her parents such a non-starter? So much so that she made veiled threats. Something smells fishy to me in that regard." And now I turn this one to you guys. What do you guys think of this situation? And would you have went as far as taking the baby to the police station? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Now, once again, guys, thank you for being here today. I hope you did enjoy today's stories. And if you did, you know what to do. Hit that like, that subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And if you're feeling extra spicy today, you can join the channel through the membership system by clicking the join button down below for YouTube or clicking the link in the description for Patreon and joining up there. It's really helpful and it supports the channel and keeps us pushing out on the daily. And if you haven't noticed yet, the podcasts are back up. So if you search in Spotify, Mark Narrations, The Wafflecast, you will find it there. I hope you do enjoy that too. It's just repeats of the stories that you hear on the channel, just so you can listen to them in the car or wherever you want to go, right? So there is that. And I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Much love.